Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down the really complex case of Joel Zarraga. And according to the source documents we have, his life story is a wild, cautionary tale of what can happen when immense promise just completely goes off the rails.
Okay, so let's just dive right in. Who is Joel-Evgeny Zarraga? Well, he's a Swiss national, and right now he finds himself at the absolute center of a pretty serious international investigation. But to really get the full picture, you kind of have to understand what led him to this point in the first place.
At its core, this whole story is about a man who is on the run from the authorities. And to understand why he's running, we've got to start with the incredibly serious allegations that he's currently facing.
He's accused of a really disturbing range of criminal activities. We're talking big stuff, like international money laundering and being an accomplice in a massive real estate scam. But then there's the most serious allegation of all, child sex abuse. On top of all that, he apparently just took off in the middle of a police investigation.
Now, here's what's so fascinating about this. These accusations, they are a world away from the life he was seemingly destined to lead. The sources we have paint this picture of a background that was just filled with privilege and, frankly, enormous potential. So get this, Zarraga was born into this multicultural family, grew up near Geneva, and had that coveted Swiss passport. He was also a gifted linguist, fluent in 5 languages. I mean, those are all the ingredients you need for a successful global career, right? And it doesn't stop there. He got an elite education from ETH Zurich, which is one of the best technical universities on the planet. With that kind of academic pedigree, you'd think a glittering career in IT or pretty much any other field wasn't just possible, it was practically a guarantee.
And this slide, it just lays out the central conflict of the whole story perfectly. On one side, you've got this immense potential, the elite education, the talent for languages, the Swiss passport. And then, on the other side, you have the alleged reality, becoming an IT specialist for boiler rooms, those high-pressure, fraudulent sales operations, an accomplice to accused fraudsters, and in the end, an international fugitive.
So the question you've got to be asking is, how did he get from that first column to the second? The narrative that's presented suggests this wasn't some sudden fall from grace. It was more of a gradual descent that really started picking up steam when he left Switzerland.
This downward spiral that's detailed in the source material, it began in Manila. That's where he allegedly provided IT services to scam operations. From there, he moved on to Thailand, where a bad investment in a nightclub cost him his savings. Then he partnered with a man who would later be accused of massive fraud. And this association, we're told, led to heavy debt and some really dangerous situations, including apparently needing to be rescued from gangsters. And this number, $10 million, that just shows you the scale of the alleged real estate fraud we're talking about. Zarraga's business partner, Felix Smoliar, is accused of swindling clients out of nearly $10 million, and Zarraga himself is implicated as an accomplice in the whole scheme. One of the documents gives this unbelievably blunt assessment of his character. It suggests his downfall wasn't just a string of bad luck. No, it directly blames his situation on, and I'm quoting here, a pattern of bad judgment and dishonesty. Wow. So all of this stuff just keeps building and building until it reaches this dramatic climax in the spring of 2025, right as authorities in Thailand are starting to close in on him.
Everything reportedly came to a head in May of 2025. On top of the ongoing investigation into financial crimes, a new and, let's be honest, a far more disturbing allegation popped up. He was discovered with a 6-year-old boy, which kicked off a police investigation for child sex abuse.
And this timeline shows you just how fast everything unraveled. After several police interrogations, on May 22nd, during a break in questioning, he just vanished. And that very same night, he was already on a one-way flight out of the country. So how did he actually escape? Well, the sources allege that he slipped away from police, drove a borrowed car to the airport, and then used money he got from friends to buy his ticket. He left everything behind. He even abandoned his own dog, in what sounds like a mad dash to get away.
And all of this brings us to right now, to the present. You see, the source documents we've been going through, they aren't just telling a story. They were created to serve as a very explicit public warning. By definition, Joel Zarraga is now a fugitive. He's believed to be hiding out in the Philippines, a country where his Filipino heritage allows him to get long-term residency, which of course makes him much more difficult to track down.
And so, the material we've reviewed wraps up with this direct appeal to the public. The alleged victims of the financial scams, and most urgently, the family of that young boy, they are desperate for him to be found and for him to face justice. The request is simple. If you have any information on where he might be, you should contact the nearest Swiss embassy.
And that right there is the final, unanswered question that's just hanging over this entire case. It's a story of completely squandered potential, a trail of incredibly serious allegations, and a search for a man who chose to run instead of facing the consequences. And for his alleged victims, that search for justice goes on.